And oops, I've got to get a stronger table. This last week, everyone asked me to show the soup. It was kind of the interesting comments like, why didn't you show the soup? It's like, was there a fake soup inside the bowl? But no, and this week I'm going to show you what I've got. I've cooked a steak, some fried rice, and some potatoes. Well, when I say I cooked, actually my wife cooked it. She's an excellent chef, and I'm very lucky. I asked for it to be medium well, so I hope she got it right. Yeah, oops, cutting moves the table too much. I will get to that eating part in a bit. But thank you everyone for joining us today. And I hope you're all out there are safe and well. And today's topic is really about the global gig economy. And this is one thing I've seen kind of develop in the last few months, really more and more, especially now that we're all working from home. And of course, there's been a lot of movement in terms of people in the workplace as well. And really, and of course in Malaysia, we have a company called Grab. It's very similar to Uber, and there's ride sharing things. So everyone thinks of, oh, I'm going to go get in the gig economy. I'm going to go and do drive people around. And you've gone from being a highly paid individual to a Grab driver, and then you're moved into the gig economy. So I think there's more to it than that. I think there's more to it. I think there's more opportunities than that. And I think with what's happening with the global economy, what's happening with COVID-19 has actually created opportunities for what I'm calling the global gig economy. And really, it's a look for what professionals can do, and how do professionals sell, how do professionals market, and how do they get their skills used not just in one country but across the globe, across the region. And this is really what I wanted to kind of talk about today. And today's session, of course, we are going to keep it short. It's not our usual. Sharizal, thank you. Difference between low value versus high value gig. Yeah, I agree. And this is kind of something that I noticed, that how do we do that, and even just strange things, small things like, how do we put on our LinkedIn profiles? I'm available for gigs in that sense. And fried rice. Actually, I love fried rice. It's probably, I know a lot of people want me to eat healthier. This is a small portion. So I think looking at how do we do that, and how do we get people, and how do we kind of, I don't want to say remove the stigma around it, but I think is actually for consultants. And I think Aditya, what role do you think consultants play in supporting the gig economy? I think it's really a big part. And we see a lot of high value consultants. They don't work for one company. They're global leaders in what they do. There may be only 10, 20, 30 of experts in that field, and they travel all over the world doing that. Of course, now travel is really difficult. Although it happens, it is happening. People do, for work, go through quarantine, either side, just to get a project done. And I think that's part of the gig economy in terms of moving people around, and how do you cost also? I mean, cost in quarantine movement, and that's something that we've seen as well. The gig economy, Adi, thanks for your second point here. Opportunities for small fish to make big waves. I like that. You mentioned that Grab is a dangerous precedent. I agree, and I think it's something that we can look at as a stopgap in some cases. But I think there's also an idea that I have, which is like, how do you get the best bang for your buck, and how are you going to get out of the problem that you're in? A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have 10, 20, 30 years experience that they can offer to the marketplace. So I think there's a need to kind of even look at how do we aggregate these skills globally, and how do we bring a platform together, not just on not just on on LinkedIn, but how do companies now look to get their hands on this global talent? And I think it's something that it changes the strategic reality of how you plan projects. How do you deliver things? So it's something that's interesting. Shireen, hi Shireen, how are you? If you're joining us. And then, so that's one thing. The other thing is, and I put some questions down here. Another thing is, are we skilled enough to do it? And I think that's the next point that I think we've got to look at. Yes, we're skilled in going to the office, sitting down at a desk and delivering what we need to deliver. I think that's been very clearly defined. But are we now skilled enough to deliver our services in the gig economy? And this is one thing that we're looking at as in terms of a crisis response. Have we been able to respond correctly to this crisis? And I think that's something that's really interesting that we're seeing as a change. Okay, Zuleika, thank you, Zuleika. My opinion is gig workers, I think two things you get. You get a lot of experience. You can get a lot more experience and a lot more value as an employer or as someone running a project. And I think there's also a lot of people who actually enjoy the flexibility. They don't mind working for 1-2 months or 1 or 2 or 3 weeks on a project. They go crazy, get the job done, and then okay, I can take a week off. You can't do that with a normal job. So I think also gig economy is also looking at changing, in a sense, the lifestyle reality of high value consultants and high value individuals. They can actually make a different plan. Now we've got kids at home. Just over there is my son enjoying the same lunch that I'm about to enjoy. And earlier this morning he had Zoom school, Zoom meetings, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, can you help me with this?" If I was in the office, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I only spent 5-10 minutes doing it, but it just made the world a difference. So I think there's also an idea of changing the lifestyle and changing the life choices that you can now make in a high value gig economy. And for that to be of high value, I think it has to be global. And for us to go global, we need another set of skills. So that's really what I wanted to kind of talk about today, and just put out there some of the questions. The other thing is, do we have the skills? Do we have the other one is the skills. Sorry, we mentioned the skills. Do we have the emotional ability to do it? And I think a lot of people enjoy when they go to work, there's a group of people. And I think that changes when you're not in a group. And sometimes are you able to handle the emotional reality of working on a gig project when you're not part of a team that you've known for a long time? You've got to like fly in, fly out. You're in a sense an economic mercenary. And it just kind of changes that emotional reality. And I think that is something that when we talk about mental health, and we always talk about mental health during COVID-19, is a different reality that we need to be able to deal with. So that's one. Adi, thanks for all your questions today, mate. I really appreciate it. What do you think is stifling the growth of the gig economy compared to India or US? Well, I think for me, the most important thing for the gig economy is actually is access to broadband and access to internet. So it's the ability to communicate as quickly and as effectively as possible. I think that's one of the gaps. So if you're in a capital city or if you're in a good location, that's fine. But what happens if you're in a rural center? What happens if you've, in a sense, in Malaysia, balik kampong, and I like everyone to. I like enjoying wearing my batik shirts and my sarongs. So I would also like to be in a kampong setting sometimes as well. But the reality is you're not in the grid. So I think being able to jump in the grid, I think is very important. And I think that, and also, and what Diong has talked about is routine. And I think you've also got to work effectively. So you need to have times of the day where you work, times of the day where you eat, times of the day where you sleep. And you see some of these black eye bags. So sometimes you can ruin your sleep pattern by working too late or not getting enough sleep. So it's easy to go wrong. Don't get me wrong. So I think some people are in a different time zone to you. It's also easy to be the kind of, I don't know, the passive person in the time zone relationship where it's like, it's okay, I can be up at 3 o'clock in the morning, no problem. But I think some of that needs to be also worked out on a day-to-day basis. So really that's where we are today. I just want to have a quick chat with everybody and thank everyone for staying tuned in for a working lunch. I'm going to get stuck into my lunch in earnest now. Any questions you have, anything that you wanted to ask me, just shoot out in the comments below, and I'll get to it in the next couple of days. And really appreciate everyone for tuning in today. So we will see you again next week on a working lunch. I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's lunch, my wife, and she put together. Actually, the reason why I'm having steak is yesterday was Australia Day. And this is prime Australian beef. So I'm enjoying some Australian food with some Chinese fried rice, which is very multicultural like Australia is. So to all the Australians out there, I wish you also a happy Australia Day. And we will see you again next week on a working lunch with Nordin.